August 5th, 1927. Bombs rip apart the BMT and IRT 28th Street stations in Manhattan. Coming up. The bombs were set off in retaliation for the scheduled executions of Nicholas Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti. They were Italian immigrant anarchists who were convicted of murdering Alessandro Berardelli and Frederick Parmenter, a guard and a paymaster, during the April 15, 1920 armed robbery of the Slater and Morrell Shoe Company in Braintree, Massachusetts. After a few hours' deliberation on July 14, 1921, the jury convicted both Sacco and Vanzetti of first-degree murder, and they were sentenced to death by the trial judge. The verdict was highly controversial from the beginning, and there were many protests, both peaceful and violent, in attempts to save their lives. The time of the explosion was determined to be 11:11 p.m. on the night of August 5th in the BMT station, and 20 minutes later at 11:31 p.m. in the IRT station. For those not familiar with the initials, BMT refers to the Brooklyn Manhattan Transit Corporation, which was one of two private subway operators before 1940. IRT was the other company, the Interborough Rapid Transit Corporation. For more on the history of the BMT, see my other videos on this channel. Back to the story. Police believed that the bombs consisted of dynamite and nitroglycerin and were similar to the photo shown here of a similar device that was found and defused the previous week. The BMT station sustained the most damage and will be our focus in the remainder of this video. The explosive device had been placed in the men's lavatory on the uptown side. It was destroyed, blowing out the walls and hurling the change booth off of its foundation and into the trackway in the path of an oncoming train. 30-year-old Helen Phelan was working in the change booth at the time. She was lifted up with the change booth that landed across the trackway. Miraculously, she only suffered some cuts on her head and shoulders and was treated and released at the scene. In this picture, we see where the change booth would have been. As the bomb went off, a downtown train was approaching the station. The train operator felt the rush of air and saw the black smoke. He quickly applied the brakes and brought the train to a halt 200 feet outside the station. No injuries were reported on the train. Overall, it was reported that a total of 24 persons suffered injuries as a result of the blasts, but miraculously there were no fatalities, although I did see another report that said one person had died. Several suspects were questioned, but it appears the case was never solved. As for Sacco and Vanzetti, in spite of protests and appeals, they were executed on August 23, 1927. Protests and even riots continued into the 1930s. In 1977, Massachusetts Governor Dukakis issued a proclamation declaring that their trial had been unfair, although it was neither a pardon nor an exoneration.
Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to this channel.